Welcome to the only place where real, raw, and vulnerable conversations happen with IFBB Bikini Pros to give you an inside look at their struggles, strategies, mindset, passions, and all of life beyond the stage. This podcast is made to inspire, motivate, and remind competitors and the average gym goer that even the most extreme lifestyles and elite athletes have their ups and downs. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm your host, Celeste Rains-Turk, and now it's time for the Confessions of a Bikini Pro podcast. Today's guest is a former collegiate track athlete who felt lost after graduating college and ended up finding bodybuilding and reigniting a fire within herself that she lost or thought she lost after track ended. She has been bodybuilding since November of 2018 and has been with Bair Aesthetics and Progressive Performance since then. She went pro at nationals in 2021 after being one spot away from her pro card for 3 national shows in a row. And aside from her passion for bodybuilding, she's also a full-time registered nurse who loves spending time with her family, friends, and her fur baby, Nova. I'm especially excited to introduce and welcome to the show, Lizzy Cunningham. How are you doing?
Oh, good. How are you?
Awesome. You know that I think we could both say we've been waiting for this moment. So to those of you guys listening, me and Lizzy just chatted about this, but
Yeah.
we met in the elevator at a hotel for USA's in December of 2020, and we both knew you'd be on the podcast one day. Like that's how you're the girl from the podcast. So it's cool that we're here now.
I know. Oh my gosh. Like, who would have thought? Like,
Yeah.
I just still, every time I think about that moment, I just laugh because, like, your podcast, it has got me, like, through so many cardio sessions and gym sessions. And then it's just crazy. Like, when I finally met you, you're like, oh, yeah, do you listen? Do you happen to know? And I'm like, oh my God.
Yes, it's so freaking cool. And now here we are.
Here we
And
are.
hearing you say that makes me so happy. And then the first question I'm going to ask is there anything you do or a ritual you have before your heel hits the stage?
Yeah. So, since when I first started competing, I was kind of, because when you first start competing, like things are nervous and you're trying to get the flow how backstage is, like especially your first show. So when let's just say every competition before I'd hit on stage, before I would start pumping up and getting a lineup, I would just kind of sit down on my blanket and just close my eyes and like take a few deep breaths. And then I'd say a prayer to God and just thanking him for getting me here today and thanking him for allowing me to find bodybuilding and for all that my body has done and all that he has done. And then I just prayed that, you know, his like my dreams would align with his plans and that if they didn't align that day that I would not be disappointed and that I take it as a lesson and then just continue on. Like especially that last year competing, like every show that I got one away, like I would just remind myself, I'm like, okay, God's plan, it's not for me to not get go pro this show, but I know it's coming and he knows it's coming and I just held close to that. And then after I would say a prayer, and once we get in lineup and pump up and be backstage in line with the girls, because they're pretty strict backstage. Like once they start lining you up, like they have they have their eyes on you like freaking hawks, as they should be. So we're not like running around. But I would kind of dance, and I was always lucky to stand next to girls who would like be goofy with me and dance with me
Aw.
because it kind of like shake the nerves off before you stepping on stage. So but yeah, that really helped.
I didn't realize you had such strong faith, and it sounds like that's something you really lean on and leaned on during especially the last year.
Oh yes, especially the last year because I'd, I'd always be disappointed when it wouldn't happen, but then I just kept reminding myself, I'm like, okay, I know he has a plan and I just pray that my dreams align with his plans. And that really, like saying that and reminding myself that, I mean, I would remind myself that like almost every day, like every gym session when it really gets to the grind. But yeah, it really helped. And it kind of just relaxed me, and like especially taking those deep breaths, it like lowers your heart rate and you're like, okay, then you like level yourself and feel so much better.
Wow. And looking back now that you've achieved the pro card, what do you think was the reason for like that plan that and the way that it actually ended up happening?
I think he knew that of all people, I would definitely be the one to handle disappointment like that. Because, I mean, for most people, being, especially the last year, like being one away from your pro card that many national shows in a row, like it would wreck, I know for a fact that it would wreck some people. But I took it as like a learning opportunity and just kept reminding myself, I'm like, okay, this is a journey, and he knows that I have a few more lessons to learn and a few more things to discover within myself and learn about myself, that when my time comes, it'll be my time.
And when you did achieve that goal, what was going through your head? Like you're there at nationals being awarded it. I mean, obviously like you're waiting for them to call out every girl. So what was happening in your mind?
Oh my gosh. Well, so at nationals, whenever I split center, of course, when you're up on stage, like you don't know where you are in the lineup unless you're on the end and you know certain you're on the end. Anywhere else, you're not looking left and right, just counting how many girls are to your right, how many girls are to your left. So, and unless you're standing like right there in the box, but even then, you're not looking down at your feet. You're keeping direct eye contact with the judges. Um, and so being on the lineup, and then after getting off stage, a few of the Pro 10 girls were like, "Oh my gosh, do you know where you were?" And I'm like, "No, where was I?" Like I had no idea. And they're like, "You were split in center," and I was like, "Oh my God." But even then, it was a 2 day show. So I I just took it. I was thankful that I was splitting center, but I didn't let it get in my head because I it's kind of like I've been here before to where,
Mm-hmm.
so I was like, okay, this is, I had the time of my life, and I was like, whatever happens, happens. Again, like I know that my dreams will one day align with his plans, and until then, I'll just keep trying to stay positive and taking it as a learning experience. And not every day I was like positive Polly. Like
Yeah.
I every time, like after each show, and I was like always one away, I'd have my moments to where I'd let myself just kind of have a few moments of like disappointment. But then after that, I was like, okay, got to get back on the grind and keep working at it. And I knew in my heart that it would happen that year because every time I'd step off stage, like I just felt in my heart, I don't even know how to explain it. I just felt in my heart that it I had it in me to keep going. I never felt like fatigued, or I was like, oh, this is it, like I'll try again. And my coach Dylan Bair, like he never pushed me to do the following show. So every time I stepped off stage and I met with Dylan, I'm like, so this national show now? And he's like, it's up to you, dude. And I'm like, yeah, I'm ready for it. I know in my heart I can do this.
Wow. I was actually going to ask you about like how you kept that mentality from the 3 months from North Americans to the national championships, knowing that that was really the last shot of the year.
Yeah, it really flipped a switch for me. Like before that, I felt like I was hitting everything to a T and like crossing my T's, dotting my I's. But after that, I was really like hitting every single lift. I was feeling that muscle mind connection like better than I've ever have before. The intra carbs, I started drinking EAAs and creatine with throughout my work lifts as well. I was taking recovery, and I was really trying to manage my stress as well. So, but
Hmm.
yeah, I was like, I am determined to grow these glutes as much as I can between these months.
So what did that look like for you from like after stepping off North American stage? Like how many weeks went to like kind of building or maybe reversing, and how much went into just like getting ready? Or how did
So
that
af
look?
so after I stepped off stage from North Americans, I think it was in September, like mid-September. The following week, I was actually had a trip planned with my mom to Utah because my Aunt Shelly does Ironmans and she was invited to the World Ironman.
Wow.
So Dylan's like, just I'll trust you because I've never had issues with like binge eating after post show and because I was with Dylan at that point for like 3.5 years at that point. So he's like,
Mhm.
I'll trust you. I'll let you eat intuitively that week. And then when you get back, we'll get on a call and kind of hop with a game plan. So we reversed my carbs up, I think got them to I should have pulled up my little spreadsheet, but I think we got them up to like three almost 400. Um,
Wow.
yeah, and we got up to that point, and then I think 10 weeks out, because at that point my body was burning through the carbs so easily, so that's how we got them up that high. And then I think around like 10 weeks out from nationals is when we really started getting back on the grind and like on official prep for nationals.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Did you expect that from your body? Like, had that happened before?
I mean, I swear each prep is so different. Like when I first started competing in 2019, the lowest my carbs had to drop was 160, and that was going into my first show in April. And then from there, the judges' feedback was I was too lean. I placed first at that show, and so then I reversed from that show. But then the next prep I did in 2020, and it was just a short prep too. Um, we didn't reverse going into like shows. We had to keep grinding. So it's just like I swear
Hmm,
every prep is so different. So I mean it's kind of a learning point too, because you're like you never really know, and I mean it's kind of nice though.
totally.
Yeah.
When you learning something new about yourself and your body, and it keeps things really interesting, and it keeps you humble too.
Yes, for sure.
So since you had that journey, you ended up like really going into an improvement season, I believe. And I want to talk to you about that, and specifically like what that looked like, maybe how your training differed, your nutrition differed, even mentality after earning your pro card.
Yeah, so after getting my pro card, after stepping off stage, I was like, okay, like I already had a show in mind, the Ben Weider Natural Pro Show, just because I am a natural athlete and just to see how I stack up against the other natural pro athletes. So I always had that show in mind, even throughout all of last year. So after getting off stage, I was like, Dylan, like, let's do this. And he was like, yeah, dude, like we'll reverse and then probably around May, June-ish, we'll start prepping for that show because it's in September. And my best friend Alex Granger, she was planning on doing that show as well. And I was like,
Mm.
oh my gosh, besties, we'll like prep together and then do this pro show together. We'll be split and center. Like
Aw.
I had this all in my mind. Um, so then reversing, it was going really good. Like I didn't have any binging episodes. I was feeling really good. And then around March, I kind of hit this wall to where I just honestly crashed and I started just not feeling like myself, like going to the gym. I'd get to the gym and I'd sit in my car for a while. I mean, we all get this. Like we're not us bodybuilders. We don't just wake up and feel motivated. Like some days we do have that. So I was like, okay, maybe it's just this thing like I'm going through. I'm trying to push through it. Um, so I'd get in the gym though, and my workouts, I would just drag. And each, each exercise, I'm like, oh my God, like I'm scrolling to see how many more I have left. Like sometimes I wouldn't even finish it all. And I'd just leave the gym and I'd text my training coach, Bryce Calvin, and I'd tell him what happened. He's like, that's okay. Just maybe tomorrow it'll be better. And so but that continued and it worsened. And it got to the point so bad to where I didn't lift for like 2 months. And of course, like I was keeping Dylan and Bryce both up to date, and I was every week at check-ins, I'd tell them how I'm feeling. And um, Bryce was the first one to hop on a call with me because like after a while, I got to that point to where I didn't like go to the gym for like that first week. He was like, okay, let's figure out a plan. So we tried it to where there was no structured lift. I would just, if I felt like going to the gym, I'd go to the gym. And he said, like, even if I wanted to lift quads for the day, like, he's like, I'm totally fine with that. Just do what Lizzy wants to do. So
Mhm.
we tried that, and it helped for maybe a day or two. But then after that, it was just, I didn't even want to lift at all. So he's like, okay, well, we'll just take time away from the gym. We're not going to force you to go. And then Dylan, of course, like with nutrition, like he was like, we'll give you IE days. Like we just like kind of let you have like a mental break. Um, and I'm slowly still trying to get out of that. And this started back in March, and
Yeah.
it's now August, but nobody prepares you for that. Like social media can be exhausting, and so I haven't been open about it on social media. And a lot of people don't even want, because now I'm a pro, so it's like, do I show, like, nobody, you don't see any other pros going through this. So then you're like, oh my gosh, like, am I the only pro that's like feeling like this way? Um, but then social media can be exhausting in general too. So I want to be open about it. So that's why I'm sharing it now, because maybe other people, it's, I mean, even if you're not a pro, just even being a amateur, us pros, like we're humans too. Like we go through these things too. We're not always 100%, and we're human too. That's all I guess that's what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, well, I'm so grateful you're sharing this because it's not like you earn a pro card and suddenly like you're immune to struggles of being an elite athlete or all the things that you've now committed to are suddenly like they're no longer a contributing factor because you've got your pro card and therefore everything's like happy and fine. And it sounds like you started on the foot you wanted to, but then things were getting difficult. And I admire that you were still being very honest and open with your coaches. And I think some people actually really struggle to do that. So what was it that made you realize, like, or made you continue to check in with them and keep them in the loop?
Um, I guess you always want good, like a good client coach relationship is being 100% with them, and like that open communication. Like if you have a coach to where you feel like you can't talk to them about these things, you you should honestly look into getting a new coach, because you want to be able to open up to them about this, because you can't be perfect. Like everybody, we're not all perfect, and it's mentally draining to even think that you can be perfect, and to feel if you have to hide those things from your coach, it might even do more harm for you than good. So I think that's what, at first I was scared, like especially when we got closer to that show date of starting prep for the Ben Weeder, I got so anxious. Like every day my heart was pounding thinking about, because I told Dylan like a few weeks prior that I wasn't sure if I wanted to start prep, and he's like, that's okay. Like keep enjoying this life season. We don't have to start prep for a few weeks. Like maybe by then you'll know. He was like, if you don't feel like starting prep, like if you feel like you're not ready, that's fine, because when the time is right, you'll know. So, but the closer it got, I was like so anxious because I didn't want to let him down. Like I was so scared. And when I first opened up about Bryce with it, when I hopped on the call with him, we talked for like an hour and a half, maybe. And I was so scared of disappointing them. And he's like, no, you will never disappoint us. Like obviously we want the best for you. And for me, bodybuilding is a passion of mine. And he said, like, we want to get that passion back, but it's also like it's not a job for me. It's always been a hobby. So he was like, a bodybuilding might not always be like there for you. So we want to make sure like your mental health and physical is there, because bodybuilding is not always going to be your number one priority.
Hmm. Well, it takes a really good coach who cares about you to be able to see that and say that and put aside maybe even some of their own excuse me, like goals or dreams or visions for you and step back and say like, this is not just an athlete in front of me, but this is a person.
Yeah. And when I hopped on a call with Dylan, because I was like, "Can I talk to you?" Because it was the week that I needed to decide, and I was like, "Hey, can I talk to you?" And he's like, "Yeah." So we hopped on a call. I just broke down. I'm like, "Dylan, I just don't feel myself." And he reminded me because after we started talking, and he reminded me that I'm a travel nurse for my full-time job, and he said like with travel nursing, it's so like as bodybuilders, we function on stability and routine. And with travel nursing, you're with each contract, you're going somewhere new, learning different things. Like every hospital's different. You don't have like a stable a place that you're staying at while you're working. So he reminded me that too, that that might be playing a part in how I'm feeling as well. So yeah. I'm slowly getting out of the funk, but I'm telling you, it has been, I've never thought that I'd be in a funk this long. And I don't know if being in prep for how long I did last year, which I don't regret that at all, but I think mentally it just I needed a break this year to just because when you're prepping, especially for me, I'm 100% in, like, and I'm hitting my macros to the gram every single day. I'm hitting my workouts to the T every single day. Like I'm not missing anything. I'm so strict, and I think I just need a break from that this year. So,
Mhm.
and when I was getting ready and we were going to decide on if I was going to be doing that show, like I was only about 50% sure on doing it. And my mom's like, "Well, it doesn't sound like," she's like, "I know you and you're always 100% in." And she was like, "If you go into this 50% in, think of how that's setting you up." And I was like, "Yeah, you're right."
Yeah, so true. So she's really supportive of you.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And even my boyfriend, he'll like for a while there, I was like, "No, I can't go to the gym. I don't even want to." And he's like, "Come on." He's like, "Just come with me, even if you have to sit in the sauna." So it's like sometimes I'd
Mm.
go there and just sit in the sauna. I mean, but it's I'm slowly getting better, and each lift I'm feeling more like myself again and feeling that passion back. Um, so yeah.
Do you think that like like when you think about being in the funk and getting out of it, like do you think there's any key contributing factors or things that you would do differently to prevent this? Or are you kind of like, well, I don't know where it came from?
Um, I would definitely say that don't prep for I hate to say this because I love what I did last year, but I think that was a contributing factor because you don't want to be that strict a year round. Like like for prepping, our bodies are meant to be that strict and that low of calories year round. Especially for our hormones too. And not that my calories were that low. Like my carbs never drop below 200 grams, but I think just mentally, like the aspect of prepping for myself, like always being to the T, it just really played a toll. And even though I had that break in between North Americans and nationals, but I was still like, I still felt like I was prepping, even though my calories were higher because I knew the nationals was coming. So I was like, okay,
Mhm.
I don't want to mess anything up, you know? Because I was like, this is my
Yes.
shot. And like you said, that was the last national show of the year until the following May. So I was like, okay, I'm not messing anything up. So
Well, and like you had said earlier, that there was a mental shift for you too. You knew it was your year, you knew it was going to happen, something in
yeah,
you. So you take that mentality and then you add in there that you were like you took it to the next level. So you used that 3-month time frame to like increase supplementation that was beneficial, recovery, rest, but also like every single movement in the gym, like it was intentional. And if it wasn't intentional, it was redone or it didn't count. Like it sounds like you really took it to that next level for yourself. So you had already demanded so much of your mind and body that then that last final push, you're like, I can give, even if it's 1% more. it can make a difference.
Yeah. And we were like my training style, Bryce had to switch it up. So we had to make sure every workout, especially legs, because my quads from track, like I swear I could think about my quads and they like grow a size. I just so he really had to go around my training to go around not making sure that each exercise was not contributing like for my quads. So it was really a lot of like my leg days were basically all glute exercises. And I think like right now, my work, he just redid my plan and we kind of, he switched it up because he said, I think working glutes for so often and keeping on that strict plan was kind of a contributing factor too, because it was like the same exercise week after week after week. And even though he'd switch things up, it was still like glutes, 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 delts, like that type of thing. So he a few weeks ago he switched up my training and we're kind of just doing like fun exercises and deadlifts and things I haven't done for a while since being so close to my pro card.
Mm. And what was
Oh
your
yeah.
feedback after that?
After my pro card,
Mm-hmm.
so Sandy said to round out my glutes some.
Okay.
But overall, everybody, like all the feedback I got, everybody loved my overall look. Um, and the one recommendation was to just get on a pro stage. Actually, I think Sandy said that to get on pro stage and just see how I stack up. But she said to, and then another feedback from her was to round out my glutes.
Okay, got it. So,
Which
like,
I feel like that's like every bikini girl. Like I feel
yeah,
like we've been there, done that.
pretty much. Like we can expect it's almost like we're just constantly adding clay to the mold or whatever.
Yeah. And I feel like the feedback will never be grow your glute or like round or grow your glutes until you get to that point to where your glutes are looking like wellness. And then they're like, okay, maybe you might want to switch.
Yes, seriously. Which now that you are kind of getting your feet back under you, feeling a bit better, like what are the things that you've done outside of bodybuilding changes to really help yourself just feel like you again? Like, are there other areas of life you've been focused on or invested in?
I feel like I've just been enjoying more like every day and going out with friends more and doing fun things outside of the gym while I'm like especially like deep in the funk. When I go home, me and my mom and my sister would like even if it was just a trip to Target, my mom's like, yeah, let's go. Like I don't know. I just guess just enjoying more little things that I'm able to do, especially since I'm in this life season. Um and yeah, I think that's it. And really focusing though also on my mental health and being more kind with myself, and allowing myself to feel these feelings and reminding myself that it's okay to be feeling these feelings. Um, but yeah.
I really appreciate that perspective too, like letting yourself feel the feelings because I think so many times, like, especially if we have any shame around it or we question if it's normal, we'd be like, oh, I shouldn't be feeling this way. I have to push it away. I have to push through. Can't feel this. I'm an athlete. I'm a pro. I'm a strong woman. I'm whatever the identity is attached to those
Yes.
expectations. And it's like, no, like feeling it will give us more insight than pushing it away or avoiding it because avoidance is just going to lead to that whole anxiety cycle.
Yes. And really digging deep and being like, why? Okay, I'm feeling this way for a reason. So why am I feeling this way? Type of thing.
Mhm. Yes, because if we don't ask those questions or we don't explore it, we don't get to learn the lesson. And the whole purpose of
Uh-uh.
the emotion is to learn.
Yes.
Now, part of like your journey and your experience, it really was started with being a collegiate athlete, and you had felt lost after leaving that sport and after like walking away from that. And I think as a lifelong athlete, we're always looking for ways to push ourselves, and when a
Yes.
chapter of a sport ends, it can just be really hard on us. And you felt lost after your college career ended. So how did you grieve that identity? And then what eventually led you to channel it into bodybuilding?
Oh my gosh, yeah. So track was a part of my life for 11 years. Like I ran it from the time I was in 11th grade up until I went to college for 5 years too, because my first year is undecided. So up until my senior year, I should say. But even before that, I was into sports. Like I did dance, volleyball. I was always a sporty type gal. But then once I found that passion for track, I was like, okay, this is my thing. So after I went to nationals my senior year and I placed fourth. And but after it ended, like I nobody prepares you. Like, and I'm sure every collegiate athlete or even high school athlete feels this way, but that sport becomes such a big part of you that when it's gone, you feel like you lost a part of yourself. And I had like my identity, part of my identity was track. So I ended up finding, so my in college, my two coaches, they were both Olympic track athletes. So we did a lot of Olympic style training with lifting. And that's actually the first how I got into lifting because before that in high school, like I never went to the gym or lifted. So I didn't start lifting until my freshman year of college for track though.
Hmm.
So after track ended, I was kind of like in this identity crisis. My boyfriend was like, "Well, let's go to the gym together and maybe the gym can become your thing." So I'd go to the gym though and lift, but I wanted that competitive drive. Like as you know, like any like long athlete, like how you said, we want that drive, we want that competition, we want to keep bettering ourselves. So this lady at my hometown gym, she was like, "You should bodybuild." And I'm like, bodybuild? Like at the time,
Mm.
bodybuilding wasn't really heard of unless you were in the bodybuilding community, it wasn't a big thing like how I feel like it is now. So I'm like, bodybuilding. And so I just like kept that in the back of my mind and I was like, oh no. Cause like at bodybuilding, I didn't know anything about it. So I thought it was like I had to get like super, super jacked. Like I didn't know there was different divisions and
Right.
how each division like looked and each how each division was. So I just thought I had to get super jacked. And I'm like, no, I could never do bodybuilding. And I ended up on my Instagram Explore page. That's actually how I found Dylan. So Lauren did
Hmm.
a post about being a nurse and bodybuilding and how you can manage both. And then after I saw that, I followed her, and then I saw Dylan, and that's when Addison and Liana, that's when they were like kind of started out their season. And I followed Dylan, and I was watching him, and then I followed a few clients of Dylan's, and that was in probably June of that summer. Like I graduated in May, and then that June is when I found them. And so I followed them all summer, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. And that's how kind of got in. I learned macros just from Dylan's posts and things. So when I started every other day, I would just track my food just to see where my protein was at. And then my boyfriend, he was actually the one to push me. He's like, just reach out to him, reach out to him. I'm like, no. I was like, he probably has so many clients. Like, he don't want this small town girl reaching out to him. And then finally in November of 2018, I reached out to him and he immediately responded back and he's like, yeah, let's hop on a call. And I was like, I like called my boyfriend. I'm like, oh my God, it's happening.
That's so
But
cute.
um, so I after talking with him, and we probably talked for like an hour, and I really loved his vibe, and he kind of asked me like what my knowledge was with bodybuilding and what division I thought I wanted to do, and I think I said figure at the time, like because I didn't know bodybuilding, like I
That's
didn't
so
know what
cute.
each division was. So he was like, okay, well, we just started from there. So it was fun though. This is
Wow.
crazy.
I love
Oh,
that story. It's so cute. Like when we look back at like the things we didn't know and how we just
oh yeah.
like if it wasn't for the right guidance, I probably would have ended up in like some weird pageant style bodybuilding show, or
Oh
like
yes.
because we get those flyers when you I don't know, like I think it's like right place, right time. Not that those shows are weird, but I mean, compared to the NPC, it's just different. So like
Yes.
being guided to the NPC, I was really grateful for that. And it sounds like you like took that leap of faith for yourself. You had a lot of really great encouragement from people in your life, which you really can't ask for more than that, because people who like they don't know much about bodybuilding. So usually the assumption is, I know at least for people in my life, the assumption was, well, you're just going to get really big and you're going to take drugs and you're going to do this. It's like,
Yes.
I'm actually just going to go do bikini. Like, and the word just is like softened for them. But as a competitor, you know that there's no just doing bikini. Like bikini
No.
requires a lot, and it's evolved so much since, for me, when I started, it was 2015, but it's evolved so much since its inception. And I think you had a really great advantage when you started because you had a lot of muscularity. And
Yes.
I was wondering if you think that was because of your track background and the Olympic lifting, or do you think it was just lifelong athletics, or did you really build going into your first show?
Um, we I think it could be a combination of both, but I do have to say I never really had a good muscle foundation. Like if I were to go into bodybuilding like in college, if I started then, I definitely would have gone into a right into a building phase. So I think track and like lifting for that really helped. But I still did because like you said, bikini is constantly evolving. Like every year it's getting more competitive and competitive. And like you said, we're not just bikini bodybuilders. Like we work just as hard as any other division in bodybuilding in the gym. Like it's just a different type of hard. It requires different sacrifices and different type of hard. So, but it's constantly evolving. And I feel like it's getting more, I don't want to say muscular, which I love it though, because like I'm always been like I had a muscular foundation. So I don't mind that. But I feel like bikini is straying away from like the small petite softer look and getting more into feminine and strong look. I don't know
Mhm.
if that makes sense at all.
Yeah, definitely. So do you
But
feel like when you started, it was like a combination of your background as well as like just being with the right coach and having the right guidance?
yeah, yeah, definitely. And even we went, I think we did a mini reverse. Like I think he upped my cows like right away when we first started, and then we went into my first prep, and then my first national show was in 2019. It was junior nationals when it was still in Chicago. And there I placed 10th. And my feedback was to pretty much grow every like my delts, my glutes. So that's when we took like we I took a year off from stage, and then that ended up being the time when COVID hit. So I couldn't like before COVID like officially hit, I was in the gym lifting heavy. The highest my carbs got was 525. I got up to 90-gram fat, and I got up to 145 gram protein. Um, and so it's like I got super uncomfortable. Like I put on 30 pounds, and but it was necessary though. And so I think
Mhm.
that growing phase set me up for success leading into last year winning my pro card.
That's
But like
awesome.
But I always say, like, I always take that and tell people, like, don't be afraid to take time off to grow. And especially even just to take time off. Like, if you only do one or two competitions for a season, don't be afraid to take some time off and especially get that mental break because we're not, like I said, we're not meant to prep year round.
So true. And like you have to be willing to respect all phases of this process and of this sport.
Oh, yes. Like I look back and I am so proud. At the time, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so uncomfortable. But I look back and I'm like, dang, my body really did that. Like, and
Yeah.
even now, like after winning, after every prep, I get more and more respect for myself and my body. And I'm like, she has gotten me through so much. Like, I am just so thankful.
Oh, I love that. I love that mentality. Like it's the gratitude for the body, and it's the acceptance of of what this journey requires, and celebration, really.
Yes. And the life season is just as hard as prep, but at the same time, it's a life season. So like this is your time to not be so strict and just breathe and enjoy life and just be thankful for all that your body has carried you through, especially for every prep.
Yes, and, like, if you're in this for the long run, you should want to be able to have life seasons, and you should be
Yes.
okay with, like, time off or having a timeline change. Like, you just had these high hopes and expectations that you would be on stage doing the Ben Weider Natural Pro-Am, and it's not happening. And it
Yes.
doesn't mean it never will, but you had to, like, grieve that that didn't happen and adjust your timeline, and, like, that's okay. Like, other things have occurred within you, and as a lifelong athlete and someone who wants to be in this for a while, I'm assuming you have to be willing to make those adjustments.
Yes. Yeah, for sure.
Did you ever experience anything like imposter syndrome or self-doubt or things like that?
Oh, yes. And that's another thing. Like nobody talks about that feeling after you win your pro card. And that's another thing too. So when you win your pro card, I like to think of it as whenever you graduate, you go from high school to college or even college into adult life. Like once you graduate, it's like, okay, this is it. Like, and you're like, oh my God, I wish I would have enjoyed it because it's over. It's like over in a blink
Yes.
of an eye. And it's that's kind of how I explain it. And nobody prepares you for that, especially after you get your pro card. It's just there's so much you think of you're like, okay, now you're a pro, but then you see those top Olympians, and you're like, no, I'm not like them. Then you're like, yes, you are, and you're like, no, like, I just feel like when you first get your pro card, you feel like you can't, you don't even compare to them, but really, it's just like in your mind that you do, and you gotta believe in yourself, and you are a damn pro. Like, but nobody prepares you for that feeling.
Yeah, no, it's something that's been brought up like only a few times on this show of like someone had said, and I don't remember who it was, but they said like being in the NPC, like embrace it and enjoy every bit of it because it could be the last time you ever win.
Yes. Oh my gosh, yeah. If I were to go back, I would not change a single thing. Like those 3.5 years of my journey to pro were the best years of my life. And if I were to go back and if someone were to say, oh, if you go back and you can win your pro card within a few months of you started competing, like I would not. I'm so thankful for the years. And you don't know how special they are until it's gone. Like after you get your pro card, you're like, I'll never compete an NPC national show, an NPC show. Like I don't know how I haven't done my any pro debut yet, competed on any pro shows. So I don't know how they are compared to NPC shows, but hopefully they're still fun and uplifting and
Oh, for sure.
I think
And
it's more you're more closer because you're all in one class.
oh
So I
yeah,
feel like it would, yeah, you're all just like backstage, like, all right, when we going up? That's how I kind of feel in my head. I guess I'll find out once I do my pro debut.
we'll do a follow-up. You know, like,
Yeah.
you remember as an amateur though, like at least this is something I remember in the very beginning of my NPC journey because like I did a lot of muscle contest shows and I remember they would have like when it was in conjunction with a pro show, like pros had their own little area. And I remember it always seemed so cute because they'd all have like this great camaraderie and like all talking. And I'm like, wow, like that's the VIP section, you know? They just looked like they were like chilled out, but also like it was cool. It was just it seemed like a different energy.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't wait though.
So what are your thoughts now? Like, are you going to wait until next year or
I think I'm just gonna feel it out, especially since I'm not fully out of this funk yet. I'm kind of just feeling out like maybe next year, but maybe not. So like there's no set plans. Because of course I want to be 100% ready and know in my heart that yeah, it's time to prep. So, but right now I'm not going to put that pressure on me. I'm just going to keep enjoying life, keep trying to get out of this funk, which I know I'm gonna get out of it, but I didn't think it would take this long. Like to be honest, like you think when you're in a funk, it takes like a week or two. So I didn't think that I'd be in such a big funk for this long, but
Yeah.
it's slowly getting better. But yeah, I'm not going to put any pressure. I guess whatever happens, happens. And when the time's right for my pro debut, I'll know it.
Well, I really admire that viewpoint and that approach because again, it really emphasizes like let go of expectations and the timeline and enjoy this.
Yes.
So, you're a fellow natural athlete. I think that's always awesome to hear just because I like
Yes.
that perspective. So, did you ever feel pressure to or do you ever consider not being natural or staying natural?
No, it's just it's not who I am and not saying anything bad. Like it's a choice for everybody, but for me personally, it's just I've always wanted to excel at my full potential, and I'm gonna keep doing that as a natural athlete. It's just not part of me who I am, and I'll continue to do so. And if there comes a point to where they say, "Hey, you might want to start," then that'll probably be my time that I can just step away from bodybuilding, to be honest.
Hmm.
But yeah.
Yeah. I think it's great that you can like say that and feel strong in it and know that because like as a natural athlete myself too, people ask me all the time, like, do you feel pressure? And I'm always like, no, because like I know what this path entails for me and I do this because I enjoy it. And however it unfolds is fine because I'm
Yeah,
still gonna be doing this.
yeah. And I feel like there's so much false information. There's so much false information that you need to be an enhanced athlete to go pro, but that's not the case. And there's so many people that just jump right into it and they don't see and they don't try to unfold their full potential and as a natural athlete. I feel like everybody just sometimes people just want to take I don't know, I guess the shortcut into because everybody's in a rush to get their pro card and they're like, oh, maybe if I try this or do this, then I'll get there. And nobody wants to work hard. And I'm not saying nobody, but certain people, I guess.
Yeah, I mean we can't deny that there's a reason it's called being enhanced.
Yeah.
Like, no one said you don't have to still work hard, but you're enhanced. So
Yeah.
there's a
Yeah.
difference. And like I think it's like to each their own. And this journey is unique. This journey teaches us so much about ourselves and our body and our life regardless. And like my hope is that no matter what path someone takes, is that they would do it like healthy, smart, and considerate of
Yes.
like the big long-term vision.
Yes. And do it for them. Don't do it for other people or to just
Yes.
chase a pro card because like the way I think of it is I love bodybuilding and it will always be a part of me. But like how I said earlier, it's not always going to be my number one. It's it's a passion for me right now. And it's a hobby though. So like eventually I want to settle down, get married, have kids, and bodybuilding will be like number one priority then. So I mean
Yeah.
that's the way I think of it, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think that's like you have to know for yourself and like you said do it for you. Isn't that why so many of us are in this sport anyway? Cuz you get maybe a couple times a year where you're actually on stage, but the rest of that 365 is your head is down and you're working or you're working whether it's working on yourself, working on your body, working on nutrition, working on other things like this sport is it becomes part of your lifestyle, but the execution of it changes with circumstance.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. And that's another thing. I mean, that's how people lose themselves in sport. Like they make it to where that's their whole life. And then once it's over, it's like that's kind of like how I was with track. I mean, I really made it my whole life. And then once it was over, I feel like I set myself up for failure because I was like, now what? And I was in such a funk, and I had an identity crisis, and I'm like, who am I without track? And that's why it
Oh
took
my
me a while. And even
gosh.
though I kind of replaced track with bodybuilding, but now I know like bodybuilding isn't like it's not my whole life. Like there's different parts of my life, and bodybuilding is a piece of it.
I had the same experience when I quit volleyball. I was like, who am I? What am I? Like,
Yes,
I was like,
it's
I was the
crazy.
volleyball player. Like, I was the girl that wanted to, like, the MVP, the captain, the girl who was going at every single college camp I could do or recruit, like, everything. And so then when you step away and you're like, wait, I'm the girl that everyone expected to take this a certain way, or to me, everything I did was volleyball. Like, it was like coaching. I was coaching volleyball. I was playing volleyball. I was doing beach volleyball, indoor volleyball, everything. Club, high school, never stopped. And then it's like you start, like, you kind of start to expand, or maybe other things pique your interest. And letting go of an identity is hard. But, I personally can relate to what you're saying, because I'm like, if I hadn't experienced that with volleyball, I don't know that I would have been as prepared to come into the sport of bodybuilding and find and make sure that I had other things that made me feel like me and made me feel good, because I knew what it
Yes.
was like to be all consumed
Yes.
by something and lose it.
Yes. Yeah. And I'm so thankful for track. Like it like how you said it made me who I am today. But yeah, it's definitely like lesson learned type of thing.
Yeah. And for you, you work as a nurse full time. You've got your dog, you mentioned your boyfriend. So, like, how do you balance all of this?
It it has been hard, but I definitely feel like being an athlete my whole life kind of helped me set that up, especially being a collegiate athlete. Um, like being a student athlete, you really have to have that time management skill between setting aside, like separating college life and studying and then your sport. So I really think that set me up, and that's what carried into nursing because I mean nursing and bodybuilding they kind of have same qualities to where you have to be like very disciplined, have good time management skills, and just be knowledgeable. So I think they all kind of play a part in how I manage them also well. And I've always been good with time management and discipline. So I think that's also what made me because if you're not disciplined, like people, my colleagues would be like, "Oh, I love food too much. Like I'd never be able to do what you do." Okay, I tell them I'm like, "Okay, I love food too." Like if you would put I would house a bowl of cereal if you put it in front of me. Like especially during prep, I tell them that of like if you would put something in front of me, like I love it. I would house it, but I just have that discipline, I guess, to that I know what my goals are and I remind myself of the goals. So I really think you definitely need that discipline and time management. But nursing definitely those skills from college and track and being a student athlete into nursing into bodybuilding, they all played a role in how I manage it all together.
I really like that. There's such a connection because you've committed to things that require your attention and require your execution. So if you don't prepare yourself with that, then it would be difficult to be effective.
Yeah. And then of course support like my family and my I have so many amazing people, my family, friends, boyfriend. They I am truly blessed to have all the people that I do in my life to support me no matter what I do. But I mean, especially in bodybuilding or anything that I set my mind to, they're there and they're like, yeah, you can do this. We're right by your side.
I
And
love
like
that.
my mom for uh my year going to pro, she was like every show she went to, and every time I was one away, I'm like, I'm so sorry, mom. And she's like, are you kidding me? She's like, I'm having the time of my life. Seeing you up on that stage, she's like, it brings me
Oh.
so much joy. These little vacations, like they mean, even though it was like wasn't a vacation to me because it felt like work, because I was like, okay, like I'm there to do business. But for her, it was like it's like a mini vacation, and she's like, I'm not missing. So whenever after I got off North Americans and we like I told my mom about nationals, she was like, yeah, let's do it. And I was like, you don't have to come. It's like all the way in Florida. And she's like, are you kidding me? She's like, I'm gonna go to every show until you get your pro card. She's like, I am not missing you earning your pro card.
Oh, that is so amazing. I love that. That is
And then my
just so cool.
yeah, and then even my boyfriend, like he would cook meals for me. And I'm so when I'm in prep, I am like prep is like hard enough, and it's a very selfish sport, and I'm very particular. So about my foods, like I have macro, it's like macro based the way Bair does it.
Mhm.
But I pretty much had a meal plan because I knew what foods worked for me. So like every day was pretty much the same, except if I wanted to switch it up, like I had obviously that flexibility to switch it up. But I was so particular, like my salmon burgers, I had to only have one brand of the salmon burger. And the one time we were at the one store was out, so he went to like three other separate stores to find me these particular salmon burgers. So it's just like
Oh my
you really do have
gosh.
to have that support because this sport is so hard and both mentally and physically that you really do need some type of support.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry, I don't that might have went off topic. I don't even know where that went
Oh my
to.
gosh. No, I am glad that you shared that because it's true. Like part of being successful and part of balancing is having the support of other people, and you've been able to establish that for yourself, and it sounds like they're just as invested in your journey as you are.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I really do have the best people in my life.
Hmm. Now, do you have a vision for your pro career? Like, do you have any dream shows you've wanted to do or any accomplishments you hope to make?
Um, I mean, I would love to obviously get first call outs. I guess just to see how my pro debut goes and just to have fun with it and to not have any sort of pressure and just see how I stack up against the other pros. But I would love to eventually work my way up into first call outs and even, qualify for the Olympia. I mean, that would be a dream too. But obviously I'm not going to set any sort of pressure or timeline to it, but that would definitely be a goal.
What do you hope people would maybe see from your journey or learn from your journey that you think could help them or you would hope would help them in theirs?
Um, just to never give up, and no matter how long it takes, like if you have that goal in mind, like don't give up on yourself. Like your dreams will eventually align with God's plans and being one away, like if you're one away, take it as a learning opportunity, and it's a learning opportunity to keep bettering yourself and just enjoy the journey. I mean, even if you don't go pro, just enjoy your bodybuilding journey, really.
Mm. I love it. That's so special. Now, can you share with us like your best advice for people who have never competed before but would like to, and then your best advice for those on their road to pro?
So, for my best advice for never competed would be first to research your coach. Like not every coach is the right fit for everybody. And to really research and have your options available, and to talk with them and not feel pressure just because you find one coach, don't feel pressure that you have to go to them. And then if you do find a coach and you guys just don't fit or you don't like how things are going, it's not it's not wrong to look for another coach. I mean, it's bodybuilding, it's you're paying them. So if you don't like how things are going or how like the type of style of coaching that they do, there's nothing wrong with finding a new one. And then make sure for bodybuilding, make sure you're doing it for the right reasons. So bodybuilding, it's hard both mentally and physically, and you have to know it's a very selfish sport too. So you really have to have all those qualities of knowledge, discipline, and time management before going into it, and just know what you're getting yourself into. Also make sure you have a good relationship with yourself, one, and then two, a good relationship with food. You don't want to go into bodybuilding or go into a prep when you're already talking down on your body and yourself, and you're restricting yourself or you're binging. Make sure that you reach out to a professional and get help before ever going starting bodybuilding. And then make sure you're mentally and physically healthy before going in bodybuilding as well. Sorry, that was a lot. And then
No,
I
that
guess
was great.
and then I guess for my advice for anybody on their road to pro, like I said before, and I will continue to say this, enjoy the journey. Don't rush it. Don't put any timeline on it. Just enjoy the process. The bad days, they're just bad days. You'll get through them, I promise. And, you know, I believe in you. You're amazing. Keep reminding yourself that, and just enjoy the process, because like I said, you'll never know the last time you'll step on an NPC stage, and then once it is like, that's it. Once you get your pro card, you're never stepping on an NPC stage again. So yeah, enjoy the journey. Heart.
I love your advice so much. And I just am so grateful for your time and that we got to connect in this way and record our conversation for everybody to hear. And I would love for others to be able to connect with you and follow your journey. So how could they do that?
So my Instagram handle is Lizzy__ Cunningham. Right now I try to be pretty active on it, but right now going through my funk, like, it obviously social media isn't my top priority, but I am active on it. And if anybody has any questions or wants to reach out, I'm always checking my DMs, and never be afraid to reach out. Like, I will not bite, and I'll be there if you need any support or anything, anybody to talk to. I'm always here.
Oh, that's so awesome. I'm going to make sure that I put that in the show notes page. And I just know you're such a genuine person. And I'm so grateful that you came on here so openly, because you said that this podcast has helped you get through a lot, but like what you just shared and everything you just provided for us and the listeners is going to do the same exact thing. And this podcast wouldn't even be possible if it wasn't for athletes like yourself coming on to share so openly. So I really just want to appreciate you for your time.
Oh my gosh, thank you. Like, it is an honor, and I just can't believe that I'm on this. Like, who would have ever thought, like, me listening to this podcast back in 2018, 2019, and now I'm on it. I just can't believe it. Dream come true.
Oh my gosh.
Especially us meeting in that elevator for nationals
That
and
was so
and for
cute.
USA's. I know.
I'm grateful for that too. Like, and also because of that, like I got to follow the rest of your journey, and I'm really glad that I could witness a lot of that unfold and be inspired by you and continue to stay in touch. And I'll definitely continue to do that. And I hope that other people listening feel inspired to know that it's possible for them too.
Yes, yes.
Well, thank you so much. And to everybody listening, I'm going to put all the information in the show notes page that's always on celestial.fit/podcast. Not only will you see the Instagram handles there, but you're also going to see full episode timestamps. So you can go back and listen to very particular parts of the episode that you enjoyed. You'll see a breakdown of the topics covered. So when you tell all your friends and teammates about this episode, you know exactly what to tell them about it. And there'll be a full summary of the episode in case you want a little synopsis in the future, or for any of the other episodes, which you can always find in the category section. Just scroll down to the bottom of the page if you're on your mobile device. Find it. It's all alphabetized there, and you'll be able to find your favorite athletes. Of course, if you have anyone you want to hear on the show, feel free to DM me at celestial_fit, or reach out to me on my website, because I'm always open to your suggestions. I love bringing people on that you guys want to hear and having these amazing conversations. And with all that being said, I hope you all have an amazing rest of your day, night, or morning, wherever you are in the world while you're listening to this episode. Just